Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this is actually week 1 of our Zoom, or our course. So welcome. We're about ready to get started. Can you hear me, Alexandra? Good morning. I can read your lips. I can't hear because I don't have my headset on, which should be okay because I can read lips really well. So you can hear me okay? Am I too close to the microphone? Too loud? No? Okay. Peachy. All right, let's see. What do we have going on? I'm getting all my technology ready here. And there we go. Okay. So I'm going to admit those who are coming in. We've got a few minutes before we get started. As you may recall, I'm going to admit folks before we give everybody until about 5 minutes after to get admitted, and then we'll get started. Hi, Leah. I only see a few faces. Most of you did not share your screen, which is fine, or your camera rather. You'll see I'm actually logged into this meeting somewhere in there. I'm going to post I just posted in the comments. So I'm logged in on my iPad. You can see my iPad there, right? That's kind of cool. So I'm getting to see on my iPad, I get to see that you guys are punching in your name, which is good, and the time, and that's awesome. So we'll give it a few more minutes, let everybody get admitted. So if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, now's a good time to post them. And if anybody wants to speak, tell me, just put my headset on and I'll do that. But last time we got together, hardly nobody spoke. So when you speak, you can unmute yourself. Everybody will hear you. Alexandra, can you unmute yourself? Okay, cool. I'm going to put my headset on so I can hear. So just a second. This is my fancy headset. I'm always afraid of messing up the technology, especially when you start messing with audio. So okay, can you still hear me, Alexandra? I can't hear you, so let me go to my Zoom preferences, see if I can change my speaker to... I've got to go into my settings and add technology. It's such a interesting thing. So I'm adding these to... So now I'm in my... There we go. Test speaker. Okay, Alexandra, can you hear me now? I can hear you. And so... Cool. Thank you so much for helping me with my technology. So right now I'm speaking into this microphone, but I'm hearing into these headphones, and that's good. Last week I had a panic attack after our Zoom meeting because this is being posted right now to YouTube and our Facebook page. But when I went to check it out after we finished, there was no audio. And I was like, no. I thought everything worked, but it was just a setting on my devices. So anyway, technology. It's so much fun. Okay, let's get started. It's pretty much time. Looks like we've got a couple other folks waiting to get in. So it's 10:06 a.m. Let's get started. I want to, before we jump right in, I want to say, I want to kind of comment on the assignments that I've been receiving. This week's assignment, week 1, was really pretty simple. And if you didn't get a chance to watch the weekly tutorial assignment review, I would encourage you to do that. I'm going to do that every week. And the way that's going to work, just for those of you who are just coming into the class, and we have had several new enrollees, and I want to welcome all of you to the course. I'm pretty excited about just the whole new online course. It involves a lot of technology, and I'm trying to learn it and use it well. But I want to talk about a couple of things today as we jump into next week's assignment. So week 0, the first week, was a pretty easy assignment. You watched some videos, you wrote an article, and one of the things we were trying to do offline, I was trying to do, is orchestrate class participation. And so I want to just make an announcement, and I'm going to post this very clearly, and I'm going to change the syllabus so that class participation, what I think of class participation, and what I see or think I perceive you guys to think about class participation is very different. So I'm going to change the name. Instead of class participation, it's class collaboration. So I want you to think of our group as kind of a team, a military team, and we're on a mission, and we have to help one another get the mission accomplished. Because what I'm envisioning with what I thought was class participation, it's really class collaboration, where if you have a question or you're struggling with something, we have a way to post that question, and then you, as a student who's already figured it out, you can post a comment or a screen share or whatever to help answer that question. That's what I think of when I think of class participation, not just activity. So I'm getting lots of activity. Mostly it's emails. I got one email this week, which is phenomenal to me, that one student at this stage is having trouble registering online, which, as you know, because 99% of you have done this already, which is to register at moneystudygroup.com. And that just gets you registered on that website. But then you have to enroll in the course, which means you actually have to pay. And by the way, announcement, the early bird special is good until I think next weekend. If you haven't already done so, enroll in the course, which means you have to pay the $49.95, and that goes away soon, and then it goes to the normal price, which is $100. So do that. But one student was sending me emails, multiple emails, about not being able to register, and it turns out the reason is because a parent paid for the course, which means the parent registered for the course. So that student is the only one who's having trouble, and I have a hard time spending time trying to deal with that kind of issue. Frankly, I think for that student, it might make sense for me to talk with your parent, because one of the main objectives of this course is to help you become prepared for the responsibility of managing your life, and that means managing your money. And if at this point you're still unable to figure something out, like how to register for the website, and if you don't have the capacity to make that purchase yourself, I would say there's kind of a challenge there. And it might make sense for you to maybe consider a different course, because this course is it's really designed to help push you in the direction of responsibility and taking responsibility for your life. And so I want to be kind, I want to be careful and considerate, but at the end of the day, I want to be very clear that in order for you to really be successful in this course, it's really about demonstrating and pushing yourself to be successful in the context of managing money. And so the course is set up in such a way to help you do that. And if you're falling behind already with basic things like just keeping up with, the first few steps, then it's going to get carried away pretty quickly and you're going to have a challenge. So last semester was an unusual semester. I see a comment there. Everybody should see that about being charged twice. So wondering what you should do about that. You sent the receipts last week. I guess you sent them by email. So I will check that out and get that fixed. I don't know why you were charged twice, except that apparently you must have purchased the course twice. So I'll get around to fixing that, but it's not, that's my job. So it's I'll get that fixed. But please don't buy the course twice, because then that just makes work for someone, and that happens to be me. So we'll get you taken care of if you did buy it twice, or if you purchased the summer class, it's because I had an error on the website. I had the wrong link. It took you to the wrong course, and so that's all on me. So if that's the reason you bought it twice, then I am very sorry. So yeah, if you emailed me, I'm looking at your chat now. I will follow up. I'm recording this so the chats will come in. So back to the class participation. I need your help. I need your help. I've got a problem I can't fix without your help. So here's what I'm going to post this week in terms of my request to you. So you may notice that I was, let me just show you what we were doing here. I was sending out this email where I included that our weekly meetings are at 10 a.m. and you're not required to join this meeting, live, but you would want to watch the video. So if you haven't done that for the first week and you have questions, then it's a little frustrating me answering questions over and over for students who didn't watch this video. So this weekly video is important. You need to watch it. And then I had all these links in this email that some of you received, because when you ask me a question that I've already answered, I don't really take time to answer you specifically. I just send you this email, which is, if you watch here, I'll show you what it is. If you use Text Expander like I do, you put that in and boom. That's what I do. When I get a question from you like, hey, is my homework just to do, whatever. If it's a question that you shouldn't be asking me, then you get this email. The problem is what I'm doing right now, what we're doing right now, in my opinion, is not working. And so I want to fix that, but I don't know how to fix that. I need your help. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask you to give me some ideas right now in the chat. I've got a couple of ideas for how we can collaborate. So let me set the table real quick. And this is just before we get into the course, and before we get into today's lesson. Today's lesson, by the way, is a good one. It's called David the Man-Child. So I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But that's our lesson. I'm going to teach you how to build a budget, and we're going to use David's portal, his financial planning portal, to do that. So you see that on the screen now. That's David Man-Child, if you're wondering. But what I want you to post right now, I like that. Mathis. That was my first. I told you I have some ideas. So I'm thinking that's a good one. Um, and I can set up a group and then I can send everyone an invitation to that group. I'm assuming I've used GroupMe before, but I was invited into a group. So I'm thinking I can create a group and invite you all into it, and we could use that as a way to collaborate. It's a great tool because it gives us the ability to post screen shares, GIFs, videos, GIFs or GIFs, however you say that, those moving pictures, which are a wonderful tool for me to show you something quickly, which is what I need to do. So the goal of class collaboration is for us to be able to post our questions for students who have questions that are really pretty simple and should be easy to answer, and then other students who have the absolute ability to answer those questions immediately, instead of having this massive bottleneck where I'm answering questions that are really already answered. It gives you as students the ability to ask questions and move along, and students who are a little further down the road to post answers to help move along. To me, that's class collaboration. And last semester we used GroupMe, and I was able to see if there was a question that I knew was a great question that really no other student would have the answer to unless they were just working way ahead, then I would jump in and I would certainly answer that question in the weekly assignment review. So using GroupMe last semester helped me keep everybody on the right track. But my problem with GroupMe is this. Out of 120 students this semester, I'm betting that only half of them are going to participate in a GroupMe. So there are other options, and I just want to explore the options. So yeah, we could use Microsoft Teams platform, except that would require me to go from all Mac to something other than Mac. And so I'm not interested in using, I don't want to use anything that's Microsoft. It needs to be something that is easily accessible from any platform. And anything I've used with Microsoft is super frustrating for me with an iPhone, an iMac, another iMac, an iPad, a MacBook Pro. Sorry. So I'm looking. So GroupMe. So that's it. You guys don't have any other? I've got some other options. We started out with using. So we're posting this to Facebook and YouTube. This weekly video, and if you look at the comments that we had in that on the video, it wasn't collaboration at all. It was not really much of anything helpful. So obviously it's not working. So if you have any suggestions, post them here. I thought about Google Drive. That was one of the things I was thinking about. And we would just then post a Google Doc that everybody had access to, and we could make that our ongoing, kind of like you just post and review. That's Discord. Not sure what Discord is, but I'll check that out. It can be used on a computer or a mobile device. Is Discord, do you know if they have a WordPress plugin? I'll have to check that, but that's a great one. So if you've got any other suggestions, now's a great time for you to post something helpful in terms of our class collaboration. That's what we're looking for, is a tool that gives us the ability to collaborate. And I think I tried the YouTube, and YouTube's very limited because one thing, you can't post images. So Facebook you can, but we got very few comments on Facebook. So I'm assuming Facebook is not your favorite platform. So unless you tell me, I don't know, but I'm assuming based on the activity and the limited collaboration, there was very little collaboration, that Facebook didn't work, YouTube didn't work. So now we're going to have to try something else. And like I said, I need your help. So that's the big assignment for this week in terms of class participation is A, what is your recommendation? B, I'm going to post a poll on this video on YouTube, and I'm going to ask everybody to just take the poll. I'll post a separate video with the poll just for the purpose of the poll. And then I'll take the top 3 best recommendations that seem to work, meaning they're accessible to everybody, they're easy to access, and they give us the ability to collaborate, and they're easy and they're free, and they also need, hopefully, I think it would be helpful if we could make them part of your online course, which means a WordPress plugin or some way to link it, and I can figure that out. But that's one of the parameters or metrics I'm looking for. So discussion board on Blackboard, probably the easiest for most people. That's one way to do it. I don't think that Blackboard, that keeps us in Blackboard. And frankly, the online course is now online, and Blackboard is like inside of its own place. So I saw it posted earlier, but I feel that using Blackboard, everyone has it. Well, that's true. Everyone has Blackboard, so that may be the best solution. So I'll just commit now to make Blackboard discussion boards one of the 3. So if I had to do it right now, I would say Google, a Google Doc that we share, GroupMe, and Blackboard discussion or Blackboard. So there could be weekly discussion boards. Yeah, that's right. I haven't done discussion boards, but if that's the best way to serve you, I'll figure it out and we'll do it. So I'm going to ask, these are great suggestions. Thank you. Again, I need your help. This is really important. 200 points you get for class collaboration. And it's not just class participation. It doesn't mean you're doing your assignments. It doesn't mean you're showing up to the meetings. It means you're doing something a little extra. You're asking questions so that you can get better at financial planning. It means you're digging in deeper. You're sharing things that were helpful to you that will be helpful to other students. It means you're answering questions to students who are asking questions. And again, it means you're asking questions because you want to go deeper. So that's what class collaboration is. And I'm going to stop using the word class participation because it's not what I'm trying to achieve with that. And you get 200 points. So another part of this is I need a way to hold you accountable, which is really what this week's lesson is all about. It's about accountability. And so let's get started. Thank you for your help. I will read all of your comments after class, and I will figure out what were the top 3, and I'll post those in a poll, maybe 4, and you'll get to vote. And then we'll take that vote, and then unfortunately everyone will have to participate in the vote that wins, including me. So if the poll says that it's Blackboard discussion boards, that doesn't excite me a whole lot because I have to learn something, figure it out, and actually participate in it. However, if that's what you need and that's what you want and that's the best thing for our unit, for our group, for our team, I'm all in. So I'm going to expect you to be all in too because there's 200 points in it for you and you voted on it. Fair enough? Hopefully that's fair enough. Okay. So keep those comments coming. I'll look at those shortly. So now what I want to talk about is accountability. I'm going to share a little story about a guy named David. And David is a person that I met along the way. And David was in prison. And I got to know David because I have a family member, Brian is his name, brother-in-law. He lives in Austin, and he struggled in his life. Brian, when he was very young, he had a very high fever, and it damaged his brain. So you wouldn't say Brian's retarded, but he does have brain damage. And so his ability to interact, his ability to count money, he's got a real challenge with money. And anyway, Brian had a real hard time. And during one of his seasons of difficulty, Brian had, he was on a bus in Austin, and this gentleman just saw him and knew that he was hurting and that he was in trouble and that he was scared. And this kind man reached out on the bus to try to help Brian. And ultimately, this man, his name was Holly, he's a friend of mine on Facebook. Holly, he brought Brian to the house, to where his mom lived. Brian's mom. And, we basically had a family meeting to try to help Brian because Holly brought to our attention some of the issues that were afflicting Brian. And it was one of those moments where a family comes together and gets to help someone who needs help. And the catalyst of all that was a guy named Holly. So this is the backstory for David, the man-child. So this is the story of David, the man-child. And it's about accountability. It's about being capable. It's about developing the skills and the disciplines and the basic habits that can lead you to success in your life. And so I tell this story because, well, it's a true story, and it taught me a great deal, and I want to share the lessons that I learned from David. And really, they started with Holly helping Brian. So Holly helps Brian, and Holly becomes this kind of interesting addition to our family holidays. We would invite Holly. Holly had a very interesting story, and he spent much of his life in prison. And he'd never seen the ocean. My wife, Connie, took him to the ocean down in Galveston, and she got to see the experience, and it was moving for her. It left her touched, moved, and inspired just to see a man who'd never seen the ocean and describe what it was like for him. So anyway, Holly became kind of a part of our family. But Holly had been in prison, and his story is very interesting. I mean, his time in prison, in my opinion, was based on a failure of the justice system, an epic failure. And that's not what this lesson is about, but that's part of the backstory, is that Holly spent a lot of time in prison. He got out of prison. Now he's in the community. He's on a bus. He meets Brian. He helps Brian. He's part of our family. And now that he's part of our family, he has this desire. He has something that's bothering him that he really wants to do something about. And so Holly was like one of the most frugal people I've ever met. He still is in my life. Like, I would love to give Holly money. He never asked for money, but I would be happy to give him money because his, hold on, I think I have a problem here. Okay, no more problem. So I would be happy. I did help Holly a little bit with money, but he didn't need much. And he was able to take $1 and make it go very, very far. And I always appreciated that about him. Very frugal, very industrious, very responsible. So when Holly came to me with a question, a problem, and he wanted me to help him solve it, I said, sure, I'm happy to help you. And here was his problem. It was very simple. He said, when I was in prison in Beaumont, I had a friend. His name was David, and David didn't have anybody that ever visited him. He had nobody who cared for him, and he was my friend. He was my best friend in prison, and we talked and we shared time together, and I cared about him, and I still care about him, and I'd like to go visit him, but I don't have any transportation. Hey, that's pretty easy to fix. For Holly, this gentle, kind, generous person, I was happy to say, hey, I'll pick you up, and I'll take you to Beaumont, and I'll just go to Starbucks and hang out for a couple hours while you visit David. Sounded like an easy way to get that, hey, I made a difference feeling. You ever get that feeling? You want to just make a difference? Well, I think we all have that desire deep in our heart. I know I do. And Holly gave me that opportunity. I'm like, okay, I'll take a Saturday. I think it was a Saturday. I don't really remember. But it was a day that I had to take time off and spend 2 hours in the car with Holly each direction, and then 2 hours there. So it's a 6-hour commitment. Actually, it's more than that because Holly was in Austin. I'm in Houston. So anyway, we made that happen. When we got to the prison, though, we were met by the warden. He came out and said, Holly, you can't visit David on this block because the rules are you can't come back to the block that you were an inmate on. I didn't know that. Apparently, Holly didn't know that. So the warden was telling Holly, you can't visit David. I was bummed. He was bummed. I was like, seriously? We drove all the way out here. So I said to the warden, I said, look. And I basically just talked to him like a regular guy. And I said, look, man, I took time off to bring Holly here to visit David. There's got to be some way you can let him visit David this one time. I won't bring him back. He won't come back. He didn't know. I certainly didn't know, but come on, man. He was kind enough to let us visit, or let Holly visit. I went to Starbucks, spent 2 hours on my computer doing a little work for this course, and he got to visit David. On the way home, though, he was very sad. Holly was very sad because he knew after visiting David for 2 hours that David really needed some friends. He needed somebody to visit him. So guess what he asked me to do? Go ahead, you can post it in the comments or the chat. What do you think Holly wanted me to do? Visit who? He asked you to visit David. Exactly. So he asked me to visit David on his behalf. Exactly. I'm so glad you're listening to the story. That's awesome. Half the time I wonder if you guys are like watching Netflix. Like there's some really good stuff on Netflix if you haven't seen it, but this is great. Thanks. Yeah, he asked me to visit David. And so, you know what? I thought, hey, that's like I get to pay it forward more than once. I don't know if you've ever visited anybody in prison, but at that time, I was visiting a guy named Billy. I don't know if anybody ever saw the news. You may not follow the news, but Billy Wardlow was on death row for 27 years, I believe 28 years, and I'd been visiting him in Livingston for probably 8 years. And we'd become friends. It's a long story. That was a Buddhist friend of mine, had this kind of ministry thing where they visited people on death row, and he came to me because he knew I was a Christian, and he knew what the Bible said about visiting people in prison. And he's like, do you practice that, or you just pretend to be a Christian or whatever? And he's a good friend of mine, but he was giving me the business, if you know what I mean. So he was basically saying, you should do this. And I thought, I guess I should. And I'll never forget the first time I walked in that maximum security, death row prison, and the gate shut behind me. If you've never been to a prison, you've never visited a prison, let me tell you, it's potentially a life-changing experience. It was for me when I went to visit Billy. Well, last month, 6 weeks ago, Billy was executed. That is another life-changing experience, to know someone and have to think through, all the issues related to that. But that's not what this story is about. Just a little more backstory so that you know that visiting someone in prison is just not going to Walmart, okay? It's a little different. So when I committed to visit David on Holly's behalf, it wasn't for David. It was for Holly, because Holly had done something for our family it moved me. And was like, I'm doing this for Holly. So I did it. I went to visit David. And so when I went to visit David, what I discovered was a man who, in my opinion, never adulted. Like, he never went through the adulting process. He was still, after 28 years, 6 months, 2 weeks and 3 days, something like that. David had been in prison for all that time, and he still was not taking responsibility for the reason that he was in prison. And from the first conversation when I was trying to get to know David, what just kind of poured out of him was a refusal to take responsibility, to be accountable, to be accountable, to be accountable. And that's really the message. That's really the lesson. That's the point of this lesson, is that accountability is part of responsibility, and it's part of developing capability. Because if you're not accountable to anyone, if you're not accountable to yourself, if you say you have goals but you don't actually commit to taking steps towards those goals, then you're not being accountable to yourself. And if you're in a relationship like I am with my wife, or you may be in with your parents, or with your employer, or your roommate, and you're not accountable for the things you commit to, the things that are good and right for you to commit to being accountable for, then you limit your ability to grow as a human being. And I love the definitions you guys have been giving me about wisdom. And I hope you'll continue to think about, what is wisdom to you? How does it work? What's it look like in the context of financial planning? Well, I'm telling you that one of the most basic and essential ingredients of wisdom is accountability. It's doing the right thing. It's not just knowing. Knowledge is not wisdom. Wisdom is about action. It's about doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason with the right motivation. That's kind of my nutshell definition of what is wisdom. And so David, over time, and I spent way too much time getting to know David, or trying to get to know David, but I did get to know David. And what I discovered was a man who failed to adult. And that was the bottom line. And it was very painful to go visit him. But I did it for Holly, and it was a pain. So at some point, David came up for parole. After 28 years, 3 months, 4 days, whatever, he came up for parole, and he wanted me to do what? Go ahead, tell me. What do you think David wanted me to do at this point? As he's about to come up for parole after 28 years, over 28 years, for murder, a murder that he committed clearly and then said it was an accident. To this day, he says the state of Texas was totally out of line arresting him and putting him in jail because he was just a kid. It was an accident. Clearly, it wasn't an accident if you look at the facts of the case, which, yes, I've done. And he never even took responsibility for that. Yeah, he wanted me to teach him about money, testify on his character, testify for him. So yes, testify for him. He wanted me to write a letter to the parole board saying, David's a good citizen. He's learned his lesson. He's taken responsibility. He is ready for freedom. What do you think? What do you think I did? What would you do? Man, please say you didn't. You did not help him. Testify for him for sure. So, ethically, could you kept any decision off your conscience? Alexandra, I'm reading this. Hold on. No, that's well. I'll tell you what happens, but you're absolutely right. I've got a problem with my technology again. You're absolutely right, though, because what happened was, um, well, I'll tell you what happened. So I didn't write the letter because I had to tell David the truth, which was, so yeah, I did help him, but I did not write the letter, and that's the rest of the story, and I'm getting there. So I told David, man, I can't write the letter for you because what I'd learned about him was that he'd been in prison for all this time. He actually had a job at one point, which was an awesome opportunity. Somebody came in and set up a leather shop, not a wood shop, a leather shop. They did a wood shop too, but they turned it into a wood shop slash leather shop. And he made these beautiful little leather things like coasters and whatnot, and he could do all kinds of designs. So he had these leather burning and cutting tools, and his brother had donated him money to the prison so that they could set up this place. And David started making these things, and at that time, 28 years ago or 20 years ago, I don't know how long ago, David would actually sell his stuff, and people that visited the prison would buy it because that would provide money for the prisoner, the inmate, to have money for extra food and snacks and whatnot. So David had this amazing opportunity, and he actually made tons of money doing it because he was really good at it. And what do you think David ended up doing with the money? And before you answer that, let me just give you a little heads up. Yes, you can get drugs in prison. Spent it all. Drugs. Yeah, haha, drugs. Yep. Yeah, drugs. I mean, and he got caught because he became a dealer. And so that's part of David's story, that he never even took responsibility for that. He blamed it on the fact that he was in prison. So yeah, it's sad. Drugs are sad, very sad. The whole thing's sad. I was sad. I was so sad. But because it's like talking to somebody who's in denial. It was painful, painful. My whole experience with David was painful. And then it went to a whole new level because even though I didn't write that letter, guess what happened? David had a kidney or liver illness, I think liver failure. He needed surgery, and it was going to be very expensive. And the state of Texas didn't really want to pay for it. The corrections department didn't want to pay for it. So I think they paroled him for that reason. They let him out. And guess who he called when they let him out? You got it, the 3-letter word. He called me. And my wife and I sat down and we talked about the fact that, look, now that he's out, it wouldn't be a choice I would make, because I told David, and I believe he should stay there because he's never learned to take responsibility, and he's had everything given to him. And this is where I want you to think, and I don't want you to think too deeply because it could get a little depressing, but there's a before and after story here for you, which is you lived under the umbrella of your parents and the resources and all of that. But there comes a time when you have to enter adulthood. You have to become responsible. You have to take ownership of your future, just like David never did. And so David, in my opinion, was someone who should not be let out of that system because he was not capable of managing himself in the free world. And I knew that. I was convinced of that. I was without a doubt sure that David was destined for failure if they let him out, but they let him out. And then he called me, and at that point, my wife and I had the conversation about, is it the right thing to do just to not help him? So we thought, no, we should help him. Yeah, the prison system does need to be reformed, but you know what? What needs to be reformed is the heart and the mind and the character of the people in prison until they come to the point where they can take responsibility for what they've done and stop blaming everybody else. And I'm not saying the prison system doesn't need to be reformed, but what I am saying, for your benefit, is that the point here is when you look at the profile of someone who refuses to take responsibility for their own life, their own actions, and their own future, you end up with a story like David, the man-child, which is what this story is. Now we're going to take it to a whole nother level. I'm going to take it to the point where I did help David, and I'm going to ask you to help me formulate the best plan to help David, so that in the process of us doing this together in this next few minutes, you get what I'm trying to do for you in terms of helping you equip yourself to be prepared for your own financial future. So that's what we're going to do now. And it's really a simple, straightforward process called creating a budget. So another level, yes, another level. So here we go. Let me get back to let's go here. Now, what you see is David, and this is what you'll see for yourself, right? If you haven't done so, and I think most of you have, you're going to sign up at the link that's on the website for your financial planning portal, and this is what you're going to have. You're going to have your own financial plan. So here we have David Manchild. And as you can see, we're going to go through his, I got to log in again. Sorry about that. So what I want to show you is just, David didn't have any, anytime you had to walk away from someone who clearly did not want to help. Yeah. I walked away from David eventually. You're about to hear about that. So you're going to do the same thing, though. You're going to go through these steps, and you're just going to start building your plan. In David's case, he had nothing. I want to show you this right here. Link account. This is where you can link your credit card or your debit card. And I'm going to say this multiple times throughout the semester, but I'm going to say it right now for the benefit of this story with David. If I was smart, and I'm not smart, in the case of David and trying to help him, I wasn't smart. If I was smart, though, I would have set up a credit card for David, like a secure credit card where it's attached to a bank account, and the bank, or maybe even a debit card where David had to use the debit card and I could put money in his account and I could keep track of every penny that he spent. And to do that, I would just set him up an account and, connect his card. Like I have a card at Chase, and I could have done that for David, but I didn't do that. Instead, I did it the way a lot of you are going to want to do it in terms of building a budget and being accountable. Instead of using a tool that keeps track of every single penny you spend, like in my case, I know Dave Ramsey doesn't love credit cards. In fact, you see him cutting them up. But in my wallet, this is my wallet. I love my wallet. It's my iPhone with this pouch, so I love my. Anyway, I have 2 credit cards. One is for business, and one is this Cashwise Wells Fargo card, and I don't want to show you the card numbers, but they're 2 credit cards, and they keep track of every penny I spend. I don't have a debit card, but I do have 2 credit cards. And in my account, I linked them. In my financial plan, I linked them. Just like Mint.com, which is, by the way, always been the most favorite tool for tracking spending. But this semester, we're using this portal, and the best way for you to do it is the way I should have done it for David is use whatever card that you use for your normal transactions. You should link it right here in your portal. But we didn't do that for David. Instead, we just did, we just tried to make a budget. So I want to do this is basically a budget, and we can add categories or take them away, but just based on these categories, I want you to help me figure out, sorry about that, my phone's ringing. I'm going to turn my phone off. Sorry about that. My screen is tripping out. So here's the deal. When David got out of prison, he called me and begged me for help. And I talked to my wife, and we decided we could help, and we wanted to help. So we decided the way we were going to help him is we were going to set some very clear rules, boundaries, and limitations. And we're going to invite David to basically participate in the process of managing his own resources. And because he didn't have any resources, we knew we had to get him started. So what do you think the first thing, if you were me and you were in this situation where, yeah, you didn't think the guy had much hope of success, but you wanted to try to help him, at least so you could say, I tried, I did the right thing, and I tried. Help him get a job. First thing, absolutely, because I made David understand very clearly, look, bro, I am not your mom. I'm not your dad. I'm not your provider. You are going to have to learn to provide for yourself, and you're going to have to learn it fast. I'm talking like 90 days. 90 days, same as cash. You got to learn it fast. So you got to get a job. You got to start creating some income, but I'm going to help you get set up. So finding a job was, I'm sorry, baby. Hey, maybe you want to mute yourself there. Okay, I'm going to go mute somebody. Who is that? Does anybody know who it is? Hey, Connor, I'm muting you, bro. You're muted. Sorry about that. Okay, so back to the story. Where was I? I get distracted too easily. So we told David we were going to help him. So now I need your help because I know what we did for David, but I want to walk through this exercise with you. He got a job. He got a job making, believe it or not, $400 a month. And this guy named Tom in Austin, had a business, and the business was tearing out windows in old houses, old, not very well insulated windows. And the city of Austin actually provided money for people with old houses to upgrade their windows. So Tom had this business that took advantage of that opportunity. And to do that, he wanted to keep his labor costs relatively low. But he also wanted to make a difference in the community by hiring people who couldn't get jobs, people who had, the strength to do the work and the ability to do the work, but they didn't really have much of a chance at any other good job. $400 a month, in my opinion, is a good job. And David got that job working for Tom, making $400 a week. So he's got $400 a week, which is how much income a month? Somebody tell me. So this is what we're going to do. Yeah, $1,600 a month. This is income. So I'm pretty happy with that because I figure, you know what? I can help David get set up, and it's not going to kill me financially, and it's a 90-day commitment. So first thing we got is auto and transport. How much do you think it cost David living in Austin for auto and transport? Like, what do you think you would do if you didn't have? I'll tell you what David wanted. David wanted a Ford F-150. I love Ford F-150 is the best vehicle ever made. Well, one of them. It's a great vehicle, and David thought he should have one. So, where do I see this for you guys? I don't know. How much do you spend on auto and transport? Or change it to this. That's a good question, by the way. I appreciate that. I don't want you guys to think about what is your budget right now. I want you to put yourself forward. Let's say you graduate at the end of this semester, or you graduate at the end of next semester or next year, or even the year after. I don't care. But you're going to graduate, and you're going to be responsible. And you need to know. You need to know what your cost of living is going to be. And that's what this is for. And that's what you're going to do this week is you're going to do the same thing, but you're not going to say, okay, here's how much I spend right now. You're going to say, here's how much I'm going to spend when I have my dream job. So David's got a job. He's making $1,600 a month. So that's how much he makes. So from there, we can start to say, okay, you've got this many bills, these expenses, how much do you have left over so that you can invest and save for the future? We have the X factor here. For you, the X factor is going to be, okay, what is it you're going to school for? Realistically, what is your dream job going to produce in terms of income? And that's something you're going to have to do a little research. You're going to have to figure out, and you're going to have to plug that into your plan, is how much do you actually think you're going to make? That's how this is going to work for you. This is no longer, okay, I'm living in the dorm or I'm living at home and I don't know what it costs to pay for Wi-Fi. This is, no, it's time for you to say you're on your own and you're going to have to pay the check. You're going to have to write the check or use your card to pay for Wi-Fi and utilities. So let's start with auto and transport. And this should only take a few minutes. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm thinking, okay, David, no. You're not going to get the Ford F-150. You can get it after you start making enough money to buy it. But right now, I want to give you basic transportation in Austin to get from point A to point B every day that you need to go to work. So if you don't see expenses, you may not have access yet because if you just signed up for your portal, I haven't had a chance to go in and open up all the things. So I'm going to go in and open up all the things for everyone who set up your portal at Bayrock or Wright Capital. And then once you've done that and I've done my part, you'll have access to everything you're seeing here and much, much more. So now start giving me some numbers. If you live, anybody know anything about Austin? Austin has a bus system. Anybody know what a bus ticket costs? A monthly bus pass? A few dollars. Connor, I think it's more like 50, but I'm going to say 100 because I want it to be, make sure we get them enough money. So bill and utilities, utilities. So that's like water, electric, gas. 50 to 100. I'm assuming you guys are still talking about auto and transport, which is done. So monthly utilities, 300 for bills. I like that. 300. That's good. It could be more, it could be less. My electric bill for my house last month, 347 just for electric. And then there's water. And so yeah. So you need to figure that out for where you're going to live. And David, by the way, got an offer to live in a place that didn't include utilities, but he got to live in a place for $400 a month. So $400 a month, where would that go? Bills and utilities. Rent doesn't look like rent is here. I should add rent. Auto and transport. Does anybody see where we would put rent here? So we'll put it in bills. We'll say that monthly amount bill, and that's not good. We need to fix that. Shopping. So I'm going to say with his rent, it's $700. Fees and charges for now, at least. Yeah, I'm going to put it in bills and utilities. That includes his rent, which was $400 and $300 for utilities. He didn't have any business. He's not giving any money away. Dining out. Now remember, this is a budget. This is not actual. When you link your card, you're going to see the actual. And that's why I want you to link your card, because it's going to give you your budget. This is where you're telling your money, this is how much I'm going to spend. Rules, boundaries, and limitations. Accountability. That's what the budget is. But then your actual spending is going to show up because you linked your card. So dining out monthly for David, a guy who just came out of prison after 28 years, 3 months, 4 days. How much would you give David if you were setting him up and you're going to help him out? What would your monthly budget be for him to dine out? I have no idea what the other, $100 a month, that's it. 50, 500, 0. Dining out, I would say 85. That's right to the penny. Like, why not 85.47? Just kidding. Okay, so yeah, think about it for a minute. What's it cost to eat out, to go out to a restaurant? McDonald's. I mean, do you think McDonald's, Taco Bell, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, that's a little better than McDonald's? Or do you think Chipotle or Carrabba's? He needs to learn to cook lots of less. Yeah, he does. So dining out. So let's look at groceries and dining out, and let's figure that out, because food is important. If he's going to cook, we got to buy him groceries. If he's going to dine out, then we got to put that in the budget. And yeah, we all need this lesson. Everyone does. So dining out, groceries. You know what? I'm thinking, okay, here's how I thought it through. I said, okay, David's going to want to eat out. I want him to eat out. I want him to experience that. But, you know, I'm thinking McDonald's, Taco Bell, Burger King is what I'm paying for. And so groceries last longer, but then we got to go to the grocery store and we got to buy salt and pepper and seasoning and meat and bread and condiments, and the list goes on and on. So, man, what did we do? This is what we did. We said, okay, I'm going to give him $250 a month for dining out, and for groceries, it's going to be a little bit more. The first month, I'm going to say $500, and I actually went to the grocery store and I bought him stuff. Let's see what else. Yes, groceries add up. $500 a month is sounds like a lot, but when you throw in all those condiments in the first time around, that's not that much. So shopping. What do you think of with shopping? Let's focus on shopping for a minute. Set up after graduation. Yeah, that's what I do. Just let's stay in touch. You need to keep learning, keep working forward. Clothes, electronics like phone, etc. So is phone on here? Phone's not actually on here. So that's a good one. Phone. I think phone would go in fees and charges. That's a very general category, but so here's what we did for. We included clothes because David needed clothes. And the first month, I spent a lot of money on David's clothes. It was like $250, which seems like a lot of money to me because we got him like 3 shirts, 3 pants, underwear, underoos, not underoos, but for an adult man, underclothes. But then fees and charges, he needed a phone, and his phone bill was $50. Personal use items, yeah, toothbrush, soap, etc. That's what we did. We thought 250 would be enough, so we put that in the budget. So let's see what else. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Like health and fitness. David qualified for government assistance, so we didn't have to pay for that. We didn't pay for travel. I figured there'd be some miscellaneous, so I'm going to put $150 in there. What about the surgery? Again, that was covered, subsidized by the government. So what do we have here? We have $2,000. Now, remember, David by the end of this month, how much is he going to have as far as income? Education? Yeah, no, I was not going to pay for David's education. Wouldn't be a bad idea, but David could have gotten education when he was in prison, but he didn't apply himself. Spending way over. Yeah, he's over, and we knew that, but he's making $1,600. So how much am I going to have to pay? That's really what I wanted to know. How much do I have to pay? So I had to pay $400. Now this is kind of how it went the first month. Now I want to take this story to. I'm going to hit save here for David. That gave us a baseline. So was it correct? For the first month, the numbers came in, and like you, David had a hard time being accountable. Like, before I give you more money, David, I want to know, where did the money I already gave you go? And so that's when things got interesting the next month. So where do you think things got out of control? Do you see anything on this list of expenses that might have gone way over based on what we have here? Dining out, going out, yeah. Did he expect me to keep paying? Well, I was very clear that I was not going to continue paying, but that I would help him for 3 months, 90 days, and then he's going to have to get the numbers to work. Like, he's going to have to figure it out and maybe cut here and cut there. So groceries are a little high. Yeah, so David probably didn't spend $500 for groceries. But here's what happened. David ended up qualifying for food stamps and lots of other government assistance. So in addition to making $600, he received a monthly food stamp. Does anybody know what you get per month for a single person for food stamps if you qualify? I'm going to guess because I'm not positive, but I have a number in my mind. Does anybody know? Yeah, 3 months was the maximum. How much would you get for food from food stamps? How much would they put on your card? 250, like 300? I'm not sure either. I'm pretty sure it was $200 though. So my point is, whatever he got from food stamps, I thought would be a discount, an abatement. It would be something that I could take off my end. So $200 a month now puts us to $1,800 a month, right? He makes $1,600, he gets $200, that's $1,800, and I only have to come up with $200 if we stick to these numbers. That was what I was thinking. But what do you think was the first thing that he needed? Called me up, hey, I need some help. And you were right. You were right. It was dining out. Come to find out, he's spending a lot of money eating out. And I'm like, asking him for receipts, asking him to keep track, be accountable, and he can't do it. Not at all. And I didn't have a system to track the money that was going out because we didn't make him have a debit card or a credit card or some way that he could. I mean, that would have helped a lot, but I didn't do that. It was like, okay, we'll just give him cash. So yeah, dining out went crazy. And then when I pointed out that he had, food stamps, guess what happened the following month when we started talking about his cost for groceries? When he needed more money, more money, more money. So what do you think happened to his food stamps, his card? He lost it. He lost his food stamp card. And then I got a call from his mom. And his mom said, hey, have you talked to David lately? Like, yeah, I did. She's like, did he tell you we gave him $1,500 to help him out? Like, no. She said, I hope you're not helping him because he's up to his old tricks. I'm like, yeah, I guess he is because he told me that nobody from his family would even talk to him. He certainly didn't tell me, Mom, that you helped him out with $1,500. If I'd known that, I could have knocked that off my end of the bill. Oh, that's kind of interesting. So the next time I talk to David and he's telling me he needs more money, he's got all these excuses, and he lost his grocery card. That was one of his excuses. Not his grocery card, his food stamp card. So he had a really good deal. Tom, the guy that gave him a job, also gave him a place to live for $400 a month plus utilities. And then he got kicked out, and then he lost his job. So this all happened over the course of like 2 months for David. And my attempt to have him be accountable, it began, the money is where I started to see David go off the rails. Because he kept calling me for money and I kept asking questions and the answers were not adding up. One of the questions was, what about your food stamps? He lost his card. Does anybody know what a $200 food stamp card has in terms of street value? If you have $200 on a food stamp card, what can you sell that for on the street? So if it's $200, if it's $200 worth of groceries, how much can you sell that for on the street? I think I lost you guys. You're watching Netflix, aren't you? Facebook, YouTube. Come back. So, yeah, maybe I lost. It's because I didn't. There we go. So 100, 500, yeah, it's half. It's half. So if it's $500 for, if you have a $500 food stamp card, street value is half that. So if I wanted to buy, groceries using your card and you wanted cash, you would be happy to take 50% of the value. I'd give you cash and then you could buy whatever you want with that cash, which brings us to the next question. What do you think David bought with the extra cash he had in his life? Oh my goodness. There's all these people saying drugs, and you're forgetting one of the major entertainments that men like to participate in. Nintendo. No, not Nintendo. Okay, there you're getting closer. Yeah, so all kinds of things in Austin to participate in. If you're a man who's been in prison for 28 years, and here I am trying to help him, and I can't really follow the money because David refuses to be accountable. And so in terms of financial planning, in terms of helping David manage money, it was hopeless. And I gave up and said, David, this experiment is over. I'm not giving you another dime. And please stop calling me. Because he started using crack cocaine. He lost his job. He's doing all this stuff and he's lying. He never stopped lying. And it was sad. It was very sad. And I did what I thought I could to help him. And then I was done. And I was done. And then within a few weeks, David's back in prison for violating his parole. Dave, the man-child. he never adulted. He never figured out how to be accountable. And because of that, he never grew. He never became a responsible, capable human being who could contribute something to the world. And that's sad. That's a sad, terrible tragedy. And it is what it is. But I tell that story every semester because it's really about accountability. At this point, in terms of this course, in terms of how this story and these principles apply to you, it's about the need for accountability. And a budget is just one way to attempt to be accountable for where your money's going to go. And for you, that means figuring out what is it going to cost for you to live in this world, and what's the inflow look like. And so from this point moving forward in this semester, what I want you to focus on is that picture that will become reality. And it may not be exactly the same, but you need to do some thinking about what that picture looks like, your financial picture in your very near financial future. What's the income you can expect? What are you going to spend on a house, a car, insurance, utilities, computers, Wi-Fi, eating out, dining out, drugs or no drugs, legal drugs at least, healthcare, all of the things that become part of your expenses in living. That's going to be your job, and that's going to be part of your capstone assignment for you to build a financial plan that replicates what your future is going to look like very soon. Once you're out of the resources of your parents or your grandparents or whoever it is, even the government, scholarships, grants, whatever it is that's providing for you right now, that's all behind us. Moving forward, I need you, I'm encouraging you, I'm asking you to start to think about your financial future and start to build a very clear picture of your financial future. That's what this course is about. I want to teach you how to become a millionaire by the time you're 50. And to do that, I'm going to help you build your own financial plan based as closely as possible on the most likely probable outcome that you get a job, that you get the job that you're going to school for now, and that you live in a budget or in an arrangement where your spending isn't exceeding your income. The first law of personal finance is the law of spending and saving. You spend less than you earn so you can save more for what matters most. That's what this week's assignment is going to be, is to build a budget, a simple budget using the tools that you have in front of you based on your life after you graduate with the job that you're going to hopefully get. So I am going to close it there. So for this Bayrock Financial, are we putting our estimated salary and expenses for after we graduate? Yes, that's what you're doing. And you're also going to link your debit card or your credit card in any accounts that you have. You're going to link those. Let's see. And I think I showed you how to do that. I will show you how to do that. But for now, you just need to sign up for the portal. Once you've done that, I need to go in, and here's what it looks like. Like for David, that's the wrong one. David Manchild. You see where David has all these checks? Because I gave David access to a balance sheet, student loan, a budget. So all these things have been opened up for David. If I added a new client and I said Sam Sampson and I input client's information, this is what's going to happen when you set up your portal for the first time. It's going kind of slow, but I just wanted to show you that I think I'm using up way too much bandwidth. But at any rate, when it's set up, when you set it up, you don't have access to all these things. You have access to very few things. So I have to go in and I have to click some clicks, check some boxes so that you have what David has. And you will have that. That's my next step. And then I'm going to post your assignment today and you're going to do a budget. So for the budget that we're creating for this week's homework, is it through the expenses tab that we should just, yes, yes, yes. And you'll take a screenshot and put it into a PDF, and those instructions will be in Blackboard. But the actual assignment, the tutorial, me sitting here showing you what I want you to do, that's going to be in your course at moneystudygroup.com. So you need to enroll, which means you need to pay so that you can see that lesson, which has not yet been posted, but it will be. And it will be in this week's assignment. Okay, so if you haven't already done so before we end, and we're ending in a minute, 30 seconds actually, go ahead and post your top 1, 2, or 3 suggestions for how we can collaborate together this semester. Because I'm going to do a video with a poll, and that's what the poll is going to ask, is what's the tool of choice for you? So that we can collaborate. Students who have questions can ask the questions. Students who are further down the road can answer the question. Both of you getting some class collaboration points along the way. And a way that I can monitor that and step in and give you direction and help you move forward in those situations where you need my help, instead of me getting bombarded with emails that are bottlenecking all of us from moving forward. So if you have any suggestions, now's a good time. I see those suggestions, and I'm going to do a poll, and probably the poll will confirm what I'm seeing in the chat. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you next time. Next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Have a great week. I'll post the assignment later today. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them right now. You forgot to say like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Yes, okay. Like and subscribe. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, we're going to close it out now.